Greetings, Fright Nights and Monster Girls. I'm Count Jackula.
And I'm the Horror Guru.
And we just saw Amazon Prime's Carnival Row.
Which is a show on Amazon by the guy who wrote Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting about it is it's kind of like if you crossed Lord of the Rings with The Wire, but with like a noir detective story propelling the plot.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this show in a nutshell, and damn, it's good.
It's really good. Thumbs up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thumbs up. The basic breakdown is that it is a fantasy world where humans discover fairies, and then there is a huge war that happens over the fairyland. It's 7 years after the war, and the Fae now kind of exist as an underclass within this kind of coded British society.
But the war is not with the fairies.
Right.
The war is between two human factions that want the fairy territory.
Yeah.
So the fairies are kind of caught in the middle between the colonialist war that's happening here.
Yeah, and the enemy is kind of coded German.
Yeah, well, because it's set in this kind of pseudo World War II kind
more
of
World War One, I think.
More World War. Okay, yeah, because Zeppelins.
Yeah.
So yeah, more World War One kind of era, like circa 1920s or
thereabouts.
Yeah,
you know. Stars Orlando Bloom, probably given the best performance of his career.
Holy shit! Okay, so Orlando Bloom, like I've always viewed Orlando Bloom as the pretty boy that like came from Lord of the Rings as the awesome elf character, and then went on to do a whole bunch of like movies for teenage girls.
Yeah,
like
well, I mean that was his career trajectory.
Yeah, like romantic comedies and things like that. And so like I never really saw him as the type of actor who can pull off gruff and broken.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he pulls off on this show, like, amazingly.
Yeah, he comes back to the fantasy genre as a powerhouse in this thing.
Because he basically plays the detective at the center of the noir detective story that's happening here.
Yeah.
Because it all takes place in this one city, Carnival Row. Or is Carnival Row?
Carnival Row is a district.
That's right. It's like Bruges or Bruges.
The Burg.
The Burg,
yeah.
Okay. It's the Burg, and then the section of the city, which is essentially the fairy ghetto, called Carnival Row.
Very much ghetto.
And he is the detective who is trying to solve the murder of who the hell is killing all the fairy folk.
Yeah. Now, with that said, you probably think you have an idea of what kind of show this is. You're wrong.
No, it's not.
You're
it's not
absolutely wrong.
There's a reason why I compared it to The Wire, because a huge chunk of the show is the socio-political environment of the show as told through various different characters on various different class levels.
Yeah. It's very much about the show. The main character of the show really is the world that it is.
Yeah, it's called Carnival Row because even though Orlando Bloom and this one fairy girl, Vignette, are ostensibly our main characters, the main character is actually the city. Yeah. It's Carnival Row itself.
This thing starts... Jesus Christ. I don't know. Okay, this thing starts out like Saving Private Ryan, and I'm not joking. The first thing that you see in this show is just a dead, rotting fairy, like, caught in barbed wire.
And a whole bunch of fucking humans slaughtering a whole bunch of fairy folk.
Yeah. And it kind of ends up on what could best be described as the first 10 minutes of fucking Fairy Schindler's List.
Yeah, that's kind of where this ends up.
So if you're like, oh, this will be a happy romance. No! No. Like, a lot of the ads make this look like it's going to be like some sort of period romance. No, it isn't.
There is a romance.
There is a romance.
There's multiple romances, actually.
Yeah.
But it's not the main thrust of the story.
No, the main thrust of this story is racism.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
All about racism and done in a very nuanced and effective manner.
It is.
Especially for a fantasy show.
Yeah. Like, one of the things that this show is able to do that I think that if you did it head on wouldn't quite get across is just how monstrous the humans of the Berg are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
even to each other.
Oh yeah,
because it's also established in the show that like the human racism that existed among the humans against other humans before the fairies existed, it's still kind of here. So you have not only the racism against the fairy folk, who are called the Fae, or the Critch, which is the slur for them. You have the racism against them, but then you also have the inner racism amongst the humans against the browner skinned people.
Yeah, not to mention like because it's coded because it's essentially Britain. There's a huge classist element as well.
Oh yeah,
that's the other dimension,
as well as a huge patriarchal element, because we also have a couple female characters from different class levels who are struggling against their male superiors, so to speak.
And the only ones who don't have the hierarchical structure internecine in their own culture are the Fae. But they're the ones who are getting the boot the worst.
Because the Fae are like enlightened sex hippies, you know? Like they're all about, they have like this spiritual side to them, and they have like their own version of like a church, but it's way more open and way more welcoming of people. The only reason why fairy folk are violent or dangerous at all in this world is because humans gave them no other options.
Yeah. Yeah. You will see Fae people murder people, but you walk away going, well, what were they supposed to do?
Oh yeah.
You know, like what was supposed to fucking happen?
And that's the other thing. This story is also about the systemic element of the racism too. How even if you have individuals within the system that aren't racist and are doing their best to be as liberal and as welcoming and as progressive as possible, the system itself is against them, because they can't. For example, you have the main character by Orlando Bloom. You have his character, Philo Roland, or what's his name? Rycroft. Rycroft.
Yeah, Rycroft.
Philosoph or something like that. Yeah. Rycroft, who is ostensibly a progressive police detective and actually gives a shit about the fairy folk for reasons we'll get into when we get to the spoilers.
Yeah.
But he is trying his best to solve the murders of the people in the fairy folk and to solve the crimes there. But the rest of the police force doesn't give a shit, because who cares what happens in the ghetto?
Yeah.
You know?
The movie basically starts, the main plot involving Orlando Bloom kind of starts out like Jack, like from hell, Jack the Ripper.
And you also have like even the current leader of the town, the chancellor, who's like the equivalent of the prime minister in this world. He's the leader of the party that holds the most seats.
Yeah.
He is rather progressive and actually wants to make sure that everything's good for the fairy folk or whatever. But there's only so much he could do. He's got to play politics as well as possible. So he can't be too progressive. Otherwise, he might lose some of his base. And so he's...
Yeah. So basically, one of the big messages of the show is having to play footsie with society is, in fact, part of the problem.
Yep.
You know, like these people care, but they're... caring is impotent.
I am not kidding when I'm saying this show's like The Wire in that regard.
Oh yeah. Like all the times a good character gets fucked over in The Wire. Yeah, that shit happens here all the time, and you're not expecting the Lovecraftian element when it shows up.
That's another thing. Okay, on top of all this, there is also Lovecraft shit going on in this show. Which, believe you me, when that started happening, I was like, whoa, okay.
It happens really early on, too.
Of all the things to happen on the show, that was the thing I least expected.
Yeah. Because at like the end of the first episode, which is why this isn't spoilers, because it's still part of the setup phase of the show, it turns out there's a huge horned tentacle monster that is wandering the sewers, killing people for an unknown reason.
Yeah.
You know, but it's obviously after something.
It's got like Cthulhu mouth too, from what you can see. You can't see it very well in the first episode. You get better looks later, but
yeah. And there is talk of like the Dark Ones, and all that shit. And you're like,
the dark gods underneath the city and shit like that. And you're like, whoa. And then you like are introduced to various cults throughout the city, and various terrorist organizations.
Most of the cults are terrorist organizations.
There's terrorist organizations, but there's also like flat out rebellious activist groups. And,
yeah.
and it kind of shows
who aren't like that.
The complicated relationship between those two types of organizations.
One of the standout little moments, little groups in this thing is the Black Ravens, the Fairy Thieves Guild.
Yeah, that was like
Holy
straight
crap.
up like a Skyrim or D&D Thieves Guild.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was a ruthless one.
But like not just a Thieves Guild, it's a Thieves Guild that's also like a political activist group. You know, so like the kind of group that you would like a left-wing group that you would expect that would be like breaking animals out of like research labs.
Yeah,
like a group like that, but it's also a Thieves Guild.
Yeah, or would be like the group that like Guy Fawkes was part of.
Yes, 100%. Actually, Guy Fawkes is a better comparison. That's 100% what they
Yeah.
basically are.
But the thing that's so amazing about it is they don't. You love the Thieves Guild, but they demonstrate why they are still in power, and that is because they're just fucking ruthless.
Well, you definitely get that feeling that if, for example, the Thieves Guild were to somehow overthrow the government, well, the Black Ravens, if they were to overthrow the government and were to take over, it would totally be like a fairy supremacist.
Fuck yeah.
Thing. It would be just as oppressive and just as dangerous, but the other way around.
Yeah.
If they were to take over the city. So and this show like goes into that shit too. It's just like
Yeah.
It goes into how trying to reach progress by working within the system is dangerous, but also how working outside the system is dangerous, but also how something's got to give regardless because the system is just progressively getting worse.
Yeah. One of the things I really kind of like about the show is another way to see it is it reminds me a lot of Wizards if they had taken the subject matter 100% seriously.
I can see that a little bit.
You know, because it's got a lot of those same elements. It's got like, magical fights, fairies in politics. It has fairy hookers, it has a lot of fairy tits.
I love the fairy brothel.
I love the fairy brothel.
Like, I'm looking at much.
The fairy brothel is a major part of the setting too.
The fairy brothel looks like the most welcoming place in this entire goddamn city, and you're just like,
yeah. Like the fairy brothel is, they do things like homophobia. That's also a thing that still exists in this world.
Yeah, when it went into that, I was like, oh shit, it was actually going to touch upon sexuality too. Nice.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the Fae are kind of cool with that humans aren't.
Yeah, it's very obvious that most of the Fae are either bi or pan or somewhere on that spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's just socially accepted. Like one of our main character Fae that we're introduced to, Vignette, she's clearly shown in the show to be bisexual.
Oh yeah, clearly.
And or I guess you could argue pansexual since there's also all the races that
Yeah. You could, but either way, like gender is not the issue.
No, it's not the issue in the slightest. But then they go into the homophobia among the humans, which is still very much there.
Oh yeah, they still got all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of interesting to the point where, Let's whoa. Okay, I'll be real honest. If you had to deal with a lot of racism in your life, this show might give you flashbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like this is one of those shows where I'll understand if you need a bit of a content warning before going in because it delves into all those subjects, homophobia, racism, sexism, so effectively. I can imagine it'll be hard for someone who's been abused in that system by those elements in America or anywhere else around the world to have a hard time watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, this is a slightly background element, but it's also highly critical of the Catholic Church or the C of E.
Yeah.
Because they have their version of Jesus who is known as the martyr. And instead of having him on a cross, it's a guy dead in a noose.
Yeah, and what I love about that imagery
my God, it's everywhere.
What I love about that imagery is it kind of highlights how ridiculous it is that we carry around these crosses with this dead guy on it. Because, like, we're so used to the cross, we don't think nothing of it. But when you see the imagery flipped where it's a person who is hanged instead of just crucified, all of a sudden it's like, that's a horrifying image. Why are we putting that everywhere?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Why are we expecting kids to worship some guy who was hanged?
Yeah, it's like, our God is fucked up. Like, what the hell? Quick, worship your suffering. Worship it. You know, which is kind of fun.
But it's such amazing world building, you know?
Yeah.
Just little elements like that, because they don't even go into who the martyr was or what his
oh, yeah, you just know.
But you get everything just from looking at the imagery and the way they talk about him, you know?
Yeah.
You just get it.
Yeah, this feels like this would be a fantastic, like, role-play setting.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be
well,
fucking
here's the
fantastic.
thing. Apparently, they did release, like, a free role-playing game for it. I heard something about that. They released like a comic tie-in and like a role play thing, so that might be worth looking into.
So like a 12-page role play game. Oh, okay, yeah, I should check that out.
Might be worth looking into. I have no idea if it's any good, but
oh yeah, I might get.
It was probably slapped together.
Like, oh yeah, it's probably like D20. You hit whatever, you know. But I like the idea. Like it reminds me a lot of Perdido Street Station. If that had been good,
fair enough.
Because I don't like that book very much.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's head into the spoilers. Okay, one of the major plot turns is halfway through the show you discover that Orlando Bloom's character is half Fae.
Yeah, he's a half-blood. And what I really love about this is they handle what the struggle of being someone who's mixed race is.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely well. Especially if you're mixed race, but you can slightly pass.
Yeah.
And he has gone most of his life passing as human, even though he's half Fae. And when people start finding out that about him, the way they act so betrayed and pissed off at him just kind of reveals why he didn't tell them in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly why.
Like, it's once any of the humans discover that about him, they all turn on it.
And they all start, like, not trusting him and acting like this is, like, a huge fucking betrayal. But it's kind of like when someone's in the closet and doesn't tell you. If they're afraid to tell you, there's probably a reason. You know? Like,
yeah, exactly. And, you know, part of his struggle the whole time is, like, he has to choose, like, you know, does he follow the human side that he's known all his life, or does he go with the face side?
And he's jumping back and forth throughout the show.
Yeah.
With a very clear leaning on the human side until a certain point. Until
close to the end, you know, when some shit goes down.
Oh, yeah. And the huge, like, murder mystery around it, like, involves his half-blood, it turns out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so he's trying to solve, like, oh, shit, like, this might be linked to my parents.
Yeah, because he doesn't know, he has no idea who his parents are, but he's trying to solve this series of murders. The Jack the Ripper angle gets tied up very quickly. Oh, yeah. The Jack the Ripper is not the main killer in this story. There's actually that creature that is introduced at the end of the first episode. So when you think that they've solved the murder, and I'm like, okay, this show's not going to be about murder mystery anymore. More murders happen. Yeah. But by something else. Yeah. There is a lot of straight up sorcery in this. Oh, yeah. Magic. Necromancy. I also liked that even though fairy folk have proven to be real and are living alongside the humans, everyone, including the fairy folk, are very skeptical about magic. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a level of magic that they're like, well, I don't think magic can do that, but of course it can. And it's like, I don't think you can reanimate the dead. That's a myth. Necromancy's not possible. And it turns out, of course, necromancy is possible. You know, because like one of the witches that he interrogates is like oh my god, that scene is so great, where she puts together the undead chimera for him because he brings a mole and an eel. Yeah. He's like, all right, is it possible to take these two dead things and make it a living thing? And she's like, oh yes, it is. It will take some time and I will need something from you. And he's like, what any man must give for his creation. And so she fucks him and takes his sperm. She drugs him first. Yeah. It's just a straight up date rape. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's like this little, like, you know, mewling animal, like, and you're like,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ!
Because the thing about Rycroft is that he's very much a rational skeptic.
Yeah.
You know, if he doesn't see evidence and proof with his very own eyes, he does not believe that it's possible. So, like, when he finds out that there's a possibility that there's a creature running around in the sewers that is possibly a chimera created by dead body parts of other creatures, he's like, well, let's find out if that's a possible thing that can happen. Let's go to the local witch and sorceress and ask her, hey, can you do this? And he gets more than he bargained for.
yeah, he gets way more. You know, there is also a great subplot involving a puck, which is what they call the fawns.
This is my favorite subplot of the show.
And it's a rich puck who moves into the snobby part of town, and they don't want to let him in. Yeah, and this entire section of the show is like the weird part of the show that's almost like Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. But with fairy folk and humans. Because you have the rich puck who moves into the rich part of town, and the entire social circle of the rich people does not want to let him in. But we're also following this rich brother and sister who are pieces of utter shit. Complete and utter snobby rich fucks. But what I like about the show is that even when you've kind of settled on an opinion on a character, the show will still surprise you and either make you like them or make you hate them more or make you like them to hate them again as the show goes on. So don't think your loyalties to any character is going to stay consistent throughout the show, because everyone is so well written and three-dimensional that even when they're making a decision where you're like, oh my God, I hate you now, it makes 100% sense why this character would do that. Yeah. In fact, it's also really nice to watch a main character make the patently wrong choice. Oh yeah. You know, at some point, Orlando Bloom has to, he has got to choose. Do I stick with the humans or do I run off with the Fae? And this is kind of represented in the show between these two women in his life that he is romantically entangled with. Yeah. One is a Fae and one is a human. And he kind of has it on the outs with the Fae chick. So he decides, well, maybe I'll choose the human and go with the human chick. And the thing is that up to this point, both of them are really good choices and options, it seems like, and both of them are very good people. But until the human woman realizes that he's part Fae, and then immediately kicks him out. Yeah. He's done. And here's the thing. Up until that point, you like this landlady character that he's sleeping with. You think that she deserves good and that he needs to be honest with her and do all that stuff. But what you don't realize is that him being honest with her literally is going to destroy their relationship. And you don't realize to what extent until it happens. Yeah. Motherfucker racist. Mm-hmm. You know, it's, oh, Jesus. Like the way everyone turns on Orlando Bloom once they find out that he's half-blooded is horrifying. But even so, the show is still not black and white with that shit, because right before she does that, you have this whole great scene where she kicks someone out of her, because she's a landlady who kind of runs this apartment complex. She kicks someone out of her apartment complex for being sexist as fuck towards her, because she's a widow, so she can't be sleeping with other men. How dare you? How dare you? And she's like, I'm a grown woman, I can make decisions for myself, get the fuck out. You know? And so you have this whole scene where you're 100% on her side, and like, fuck yeah, get him, girl! And then following that, and that happens. You have the scene where it turns out she's racist. And I love how the show can like fucking do that. Yeah. As it goes. But bringing it back to the rich puck. Oh yes. We have the shitty rich brother and sister whose father has died, so they're left with this fortune and have zero like business skills whatsoever. Oh yeah. And so are squandering all the money. Fucking dumb as shit. So they basically find themselves in a situation where they need to get loans in order to keep a business. The sister does not trust her brother to do this or whatever, so she ends up trying to woo the rich puck guy into giving the brother a loan by giving him an offer of helping him enter the rich society. It's a little bit more complicated than that as the show goes on, but eventually that's where we end up. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really, well, the other thing that I found myself, the other thing that the show is good at is not letting you know what the obviously good choice is. Yep. And without spelling it out for you, and then watching as a character systematically doesn't do that. Yep.
Or does it in a terrible way.
Yeah. Yeah, like the brother and his business ventures, because the minute that all starts happening, I'm sort of like, wait, the minute the Puck shows up, you know, my brain's like, wait, there's a way out of your situation. This new guy comes into town. No one's going to like him. But he's got fucking money. As long as we're cool, we could ride this. We could ride these fucking hooves and these horns to Gravy Town.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, but of course he's an idiot, so that doesn't quite happen.
Oh, you also want to talk about how complicated this show can get? The completely sexist, misogynist, racist, drunken, rapist brother.
Yeah.
The business venture that he is doing is basically smuggling people out of the fairy war zone to freedom. Well, not real freedom.
Well, indentured
servitude.
Yeah.
So,
i.e. slavery.
But temporary slavery that you can work yourself out of. So it's still fucked up, but
yeah, it could be worse, I suppose.
So like that's how complicated and messy this show gets.
Yeah. Everything is super complicated, but I appreciated the fact that at the end of the day, you are supposed to leave the show with the feeling of like, man, humans are pieces of shit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
100%.
God. You know, in fact, the only people who escape the thing that happens at the end, which I won't spoil for you, but I mentioned fucking Schindler's List, so that gives you an idea where we're headed.
Yeah.
The Puck and the girl he ends up with essentially escape.
Yeah.
Because they leave and don't look back.
Yeah, because basically one of the other romances in this plot is that not sexist, but misogynist, or not misogynist, racist, classist sister ends up falling for a rich Puck guy that she was racist and classist to.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really nice, one of the things that's really cool is that this did something that Game of Thrones didn't. Which is, hey, guess what? There's like not white people around among not only the humans but also the Fae.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people of color, not just playing Fae but also playing humans.
Yeah,
which is how they get into the fact that like there is racism still among humans.
Yeah, and the Puck is played by a black guy, and that adds so much.
Oh God, yeah, because it just makes everything he does have this extra layer to it.
Yeah, it was a great choice. Like, he did really well in the role, and
it's so fun watching him.
Oh yeah,
enter these rich social circles and fuck with everyone within that circle, even the ones that are trying to play at being more liberal and progressive.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they're still only so liberal and progressive.
Yeah. That moment where he's just like, I will not be condescended to.
There's like a great moment where it's kind of like fairy version of Get Out. Like, you know,
yes. Yeah, it really is. This is a really good show, and I can't recommend it enough.
100%.
Yeah. I wish that I hadn't largely found out about it through the ads,
like
that were
short little
short little things that they put on Amazon Prime, because they made it look like it was just going to be this kind of garbage, trashy steampunk romance thing, and it completely is not.
Yeah. I finally saw one of those ads you were talking about. It does make it look more young adult than it is.
Yeah, it is not young adult at all. No,
yeah,
this is full on adult audience.
I benefited because I'd seen a lot of ads on online that were far more graphic than the ads that he was describing, and I also saw the Amazon first looks that they were doing in front of movies and stuff for like half of the year, where they're like going into like, there's a very brutal fairy war with werewolves and shit. And like,
oh yeah, that's another thing. There are werewolves in this world,
and like showing you footage of people being brutalized. I'm like, whoa, okay, this show's intense.
yeah. So I really recommend checking it out. It has been cleared for a second season.
Yes. So the plot will continue, but fear not. The main plot is resolved by the end of it, but we do enter a new phase by the end of the story.
Yeah. Like basically, you know, as a good like our cable drama or streaming drama should be, all the initial plot is wrapped up. And once you get to like the last 3 episodes, that's when they really start introducing things that are going to carry on into the next one.
And also, much like Game of Thrones, this show's also got some.
It's also got some incest in it.
It's got some incest.
Yeah, there's incest in this.
Rich incest.
Yeah. I was and
it's not the cut. It's not the brother and sister you think it's going to be.
No, no, it's not. And the other thing that's kind of amazing about it, much like Game of Thrones, they just show it. Yeah. It just happens. Yeah. It's just like, oh, there are 2 people related. That was a fucking
brutal thing this show did. Because at first it's just like, oh man, look at this sexy fucking scene inside this carriage. Oh yeah, you like that? By the way, they're brother and sister. It's like, oh, fuck you, show.
Well, one of the things I really liked about the way this show handled sex is that it's a little, it's slightly idealized.
Oh yeah,
but it feels pretty real for the most part. It's not like, oh, and then rose petals fall from the ceiling and soft lighting. It's more like, okay, so the fucking satyr guy is gonna pick this girl up and then just fuck her.
Well, because here's the thing: it has the kind of romanticized, stylized, like cinematography.
Yeah.
But the actual acts they're doing and the way they're actually moving is just flat out fucking.
Yes. You know? Yeah, exactly.
You know, but it's like fairy fucking too. So you have like glowing wings because they're orgasming and shit like that.
Yeah. I think the one between Orlando Bloom and
that's the most romanticized.
Yeah, that's the most romanticized. But I think the one with the puck was my favorite.
Oh,
because that was just like, first of all, they're in all this Victorian clothing, so it takes them like a while to fucking get it all off.
There's a lot of anticipation building with this one.
Yeah, and they use the fact that they're wearing all this ridiculous fucking clothing and corsets and shit.
I will
build the tension on that one.
I will give it one criticism, not on my behalf, but on the behalf of all those who will probably be looking for it. As much as this show did not skimp out on the tits.
Yeah. There's no dick.
There's no dick.
No,
not enough dick.
I was kind of hoping that there would be. I was really hoping that the fucking puck guy would just be hung as hell.
Yeah.
You know, because
there's a lot of man ass, but not a lot of dick.
There's a lot of man ass, but
there's satyr ass too. Like there's
hairy satyr butt. All right, so in conclusion, Carnival Row is really fucking good. I recommend it.
Highly recommend it. And we've had some people that had trouble getting through the first episode because it's slower than the rest of the show. Stick with it. At least get to 2 episodes, and then by then you can decide.
Yeah. If you don't like it by the end of the 2nd episode, then like, what's wrong with you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. With all that said, where can they find you?
I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, or Facebook. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there.
And y'all know me. I'm Count Jackula on Twitter. I'm Satanic Jackula on their Instagram. I am also on Twitch, and I stream here twice a week on Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and again on Sunday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we talk about all sorts of groovy things like Satanism, fucking, fairy fucking. That's come up a few times.
Puck dick.
Talk about it all. Like, you ever just, oh man, that for some reason that reminded me of the eviscerated centaur scene. Oh my god.
Oh god.
Whoa, that was rough.
There's a lot of rough.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of rough in this show.
Yeah.
It's hard to name them all because just like every episode has at least one scene where you're like, whoa.
Whoa. Like, that is some fucking gore.
And some of it isn't even just gore. Like, that entire scene where that one dude was just beating that one puck in the street was hard to watch.
Yeah.
You know, it was like slave beating, you know?
Yeah. It was the whole idea. You know, like, that was definitely, like, that was kind of the Kunta Kinte moment. Mm-hmm. You know, your name is Toby. You know, good show. Good show. Fucking. And, like I said, it's got fairy hookers.
It does.
And I would want to
live. I know where Jack would live.
Oh, no, I would just live in that brothel.
Yep.
Yeah.